Hi there, welcome to another Fireside Chat. Today we're going to be speaking about boundaries, and I feel this is very crucial over the holidays and where things are going because people are putting more conditions on others to get certain things. And on that, before this recording, that I saw on Instagram a guy went into Macca's and tried to order food on digitally, and he came up that he had to, after going into it initially, the second stage is you have a green, therefore a valid vaccine passport. And when you press no, it just goes back to the front screen. So Macca's is doing a great service by refusing to feed those that are healthy.
Thank you, McDonald's.
Yeah. So good job. Macca's is far from healthy. So,
Yep.
I definitely recommend eating somewhere else. Not advocate for Macca's because vaccinated or not, Macca's will kill you.
Yes, that's right.
But it's not healthy. I remember watching a while ago a guy just ate Macca's just to see the impact, and he had a doctor, and it was nothing but Macca's for a month.
Yuck.
And yeah, he gained a bit of weight, and he was definitely unhealthy, and he was feeling like I think he was feeling his blood pressure go up almost, and to pump through his capillaries and everything. Like he was struggling a bit by the end of the month. So, but it was a controlled experiment anyway. So
that was a documentary or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember that. Yeah, do you remember seeing it, dude?
Yeah. I can't remember the title of it though. Yeah.
So I'm not.
Yeah, because he was a fitness freak, wasn't he? He was really fit and healthy.
Yeah, he's fit.
By the end of it, he gained a lot of weight.
Yeah, a fair bit around the belly and stuff. So anyway, that's it.
But even now, Northern Territory, I was just seeing how he's put the restrictions on people up there. The non-vaxxed have to stay indoors and not go anywhere or do anything. And everyone's going to wear masks everywhere.
Yeah, but the only people that are basically locked in their home or confined to their home is the unvaxxed, of course.
Yeah.
When the argument still goes out that if you have the vaccine, you can still spread it and catch it. So
yeah, exactly.
And once again, I have the same reasoning that these people that we're protecting. I've spoken to some of my friends about this too. It's like who we're getting vaccinated for. Because I've had friends say, "I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for others." And I've said, "Who are they? Who are those people?" And the most recent comeback was the elderly. I said, "But they were in front of the line to get jabbed, pretty much forced to get jabbed, not exempt from getting the jab."
That's right.
So that the people you think you're helping doesn't actually exist. And the ones that refuse or can't get the jab, they can't do what everyone else does for their safety. So I said to my mate, I said, what about their mental health? Is that not important? I'll tell you one thing. One thing is for sure, and everything we speak about is through our experience and questions to unravel and discover and get potentially a deeper meaning and just considerations to uplift your mental health. That's everything we're about. Yeah. And it doesn't matter. Like if your body is amazing and your mind's not right, then you don't know what sort of life are you going to live?
Yeah.
Like let's say you're a model, for example, and you get heaps of attention, or you're a weightlifter or so. But if your mind's not in a good place, typically you don't go and do a lot of exercise, and because that's sort of an uplifting type thing, and it helps your mental state. If you're beautiful or extremely handsome, and your mind's not right, you might get a lot of attention, which isn't a good thing. That keeps you in a vulnerable position where you're seeking approval all the time. Mm-hmm. So the outward body, which we're so-called protecting, their health, it's nothing. Yeah. There's nothing more important than the mental and emotional state of mind, of being. That is it.
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous. Everything's backwards, completely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'd rather have a body that doesn't work right and have a mind and emotional body and an awareness to be able to feel things on a deep level.
Yeah.
Because that's fulfillment. There's certainly far more fulfillment than looking good on the outside and inwardly be broken.
Yeah.
So it's all backwards. So I don't care. And there's no way you can say, you confine them. They can't do what I do. They can't go the places I go. And yeah, I really care about you. Oh yeah, I'm doing it for you. But yeah, stay in your home.
Yeah.
Don't come near me.
Mm.
Yeah. And you shouldn't be able to do what I do, but I really love you.
Yeah.
But because if you really care about someone, ultimately you should love them. This is about unconditional love. This is about loving humanity.
Mm.
It's like, yeah, I truly, truly love you
Yeah.
and your essence and who you are and how you are and what is in me is in you, But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's no way that you should do what I do because I'm scared of you or this and that stuff. But if the vaccinations minimise the risk, then and you're still fearing, that's a scary place to live. When are you going to release your fear? I'd definitely suggest if you're fearful to some degree, make your best decision. If you want to get a jab, get a jab. If you don't, you don't. Eat healthy. Do whatever you feel you have to do to minimize that fear and then let the rest go. And
Mm.
just go with caution. If you're fearful, just be cautious. Don't
Yeah.
We need to stop blaming everyone else, take responsibility for ourselves. And one thing is for sure, the more we try and control our environment, the more fearful we become. That's just human nature because we're blaming, we're basically saying there's nothing we can do. It's all outward. We have to control that as best we can. And it's before this whole COVID stuff, the more insecure you were, the more this is within households and all sorts of relationships. The more fearful or insecure you are, the more you control your outer environment because you're not looking inward, you're looking outward, and
Yeah.
you feel that you have to control the outward for as much peace as possible. And if certain things don't line up outwardly in the external, then you're triggered. So then you try
Yeah.
and control everything around you even more. And
Mm.
then all those around you are walking on eggshells and can't be themselves.
Yeah.
And if people can't be themselves around you, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
So and so if it's like, yeah, I really love you, but you must do this, don't do this, do that, be this way, go here, do this, do that. Yeah, I really
Mm.
love you. I want you to be who you are, but I need you to fulfill these ideas that I have. So I'm happy, but I
Yeah.
want you to be happy. It's actually
Mm.
selfish because you're putting your happiness above them and they have to put a harness on to be around you.
Yeah.
Whether it's children, whether it's a partner, whether it's family or whoever it is, or work people or whatever it is,
Yeah.
there is
But that's
no
where,
self there.
but that's where the recipient of that needs to know where their boundaries are and whether they're going to accept that and if that's going to be okay or not. And if it's not okay, they need to speak up. I think there's too many people that don't speak up.
Yeah, well, it's like myself. I get a sense of what you're saying because I don't like conflict and a lot of people don't. And the people that try and control their environment, they tend to be controlling anyway, of course. So if you don't speak up sooner rather than later, before you know it, there's all these conditions. And
Yep.
at the point when you do speak up, you've been going along with all these conditions that doesn't
Yep.
sit with you. And if you go along with conditions that don't sit with you, you start
Mm-hmm.
building resentment. You can't help it. So you're
Yep.
actually giving your power. This is about boundaries, of course. So you're
Yeah.
giving your power away and you're resenting the other person for it. But in actual
Mm.
fact, this is the amazing thing. When you give your power away, you're actually resenting yourself. You're actually angry within yourself. So this is
Mm.
projection in a sense. Well, it is exactly what it is. So I remember myself, like when I grew up, like I was seeking my sister, my mum's approval, and my dad was wasn't always around. He was busy doing other things at different times, and so there was periods where I was like the man of the house in a sense. So
Mm.
I did what I guess a lot of people would do. This is probably started more so around 14, and I didn't know how to be a man, and I felt
Mm.
responsible to some degree for my sister, my mum. So I looked for validation from them,
Yeah.
and so therefore I didn't realize I was setting up a pattern. So in my
Mm.
relationships, and it's not their fault, like it's no one's fault, and I didn't know any better, and
Yeah.
I realized that in my future relationships, like if I met a nice girl and I had a sense of freedom, like it's almost like I wasn't always drawn to that person because it's almost like I, on some level, wanted challenges or wanted, you wanted not conflict, but you look for what's familiar, what you're comfortable with based on your conditioning. Yep. So I tend to, I sort of found women that were a bit more controlling and that would challenge me. So initially would challenge or stimulate my mind, but then it would just go beyond that. And I found, and it wasn't until reflecting, like after some failed relationships and things, that I was actually seeking approval from them and resenting them for it. So I think naturally, with men, or there's a movement where some women want to don't like the masculine man. The idea of the masculine man is like they try and squash it to some degree, and that's not everyone. That's but I think a masculine man isn't aggressive and isn't someone that just does what he wants. It's not overbearing. It's not as if he's a bit of an ass. Like a masculine man is someone that sits well in himself, is balanced, considers those around him, and is the protector, and has a sense of chivalry as the woman is the nurturer, and then that crosses over here and there. But the masculine man is it's a beautiful thing, as a feminine woman is, and it's about balancing those things. And you don't have to be necessarily dependent on that aspect in someone else. It's about trying to find a balance in yourself. So you're protective and you sort of there's movement forward and you plow the ground, and then you sort of sow the seeds and you sort of nurture the aspects within yourself as well. So that's the balance.
Yeah.
So, I just found that all those times when I was resentful, and being a Leo, I could definitely be resentful at times and hold grudges. I realized when I discovered a sense of my heart, and like years ago when some major walls broke down, that all those times I was angry at someone else or projected onto another and resentful, I was actually angry at myself. That was a huge thing to discover. That was freedom. It's like, it wasn't their fault, because I obviously wrote a book about these sort of things and some tough times. I could write that because I wasn't necessarily identifying with all of it, and I can get a sense of it, but I didn't take it personal. So therefore, you can write about it without blaming another. It's just the insight that comes with it. So there's a letting go, and what a major release or relief to realize that it was no one else's fault. It was me not trusting myself and not having the courage to stand up for my values and beliefs.
Yeah. I was just thinking, I think a lot of people don't realize that by accepting someone's bad behavior towards you and not nipping it in the bud or talking about it or putting a stop to it, they are consenting to that behavior continuing. I think a lot of people miss that.
Not only consenting, but encouraging.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's like if someone's immature, or if they're sort of looking outward, and it's a lack of maturity in a sense. It's like a child does something bad and you let them get away with it. You're teaching the child that you do that, there's no real consequence.
That's right.
And this is how I see things through my experience. So certain conditions or patterns are set up based on your childhood and the things you do to try and cope growing up and discover when you try and discover and you're trying to deal with certain traumas or turmoil within your life. So you tend to attract certain people that the way you cope and the patterns you develop, you get rewarded or supported for these patterns. So where like if someone's narcissistic or someone's playing the victim, like that's a classic one, victim space. So no matter what, if someone starts talking and making it about someone else, you tend to make it about yourself. And then you because you want their attention, you want to feed off other people. You okay? Yeah. Oh, that person was a wanker or this or that. Yeah. You poor thing. And so then you're basically, you're not really being supportive. When you're supporting someone else's negativity or victim space, you're actually harboring and protecting misconceived ideas and ideas that lock one into their victim space. So I had I'll tell you a little story. I had a partner and a while ago, ex-partner, and she said, we had a disagreement, and she said, I feel you don't support me 100%. And I said, I don't. And I was like, what? And I said, I'll tell you why. I said, because as long as you're blaming others for how you're feeling, then you're not being accountable for your own thoughts and feelings. And if you're not accountable, then you're the victim and you'll never heal from it. So I said, I will not support that which creates suffering in you. And if I support you, I can say, yeah, I can support you by helping you to expand an idea or an understanding of a situation. But I'm not going to go, yeah, or support you in something that I disagree with.
Yeah.
Because then I'm supporting a false view that instills it more deeply. And I won't do that. And even if there's kids involved with something involved, I'm not going, yeah, no, that's right. If kids were involved and things, and I felt like a boundary was crossed, I'd address it in front of the kids. So then they'd feel that they would have, and this wasn't serious, like everyone's okay. But like this with my kids in the past, and no, I wanted them to know that I had their back. And if I supported and said, yeah, that's right, and then later in private I'd say to the adult, oh, by the way, I disagree with you, then if I sided with my partner at the time against another person and it was a false idea, then that person would feel unsupported, misunderstood, and that shuts down the connection between friendships. So I'd rather address things in the moment, and to me that's boundaries too.
Yeah.
So otherwise, people will think I'm supporting a false idea. No, unsupportive to people where I can understand their point of view, and then I'm taking sides with a potential partner or so that I don't agree with. This is so for me. We're talking about boundaries in a number of different ways, but I'd rather address things in the moment. And I think a lot of people get caught in trying to arm wrestle and like they lock horns and try and convince each other of different things or ideas. We can talk deep on things, you and I, Linda, and I've had people say, oh, you don't talk to Linda like you do me. That people that have known both of us. And I said, but we talk and discuss and go deeper into things and we share ideas.
Yeah.
And I've said to people in the past, like, you're too busy trying to prove those ideas wrong. And that's okay to do that. If you want to try and prove it wrong, great. But to challenge what I say without tasting it first and seeing if it sits. Some people will just try and challenge it from the word go. Yeah. And they won't even see if there's some rationality. They won't try and understand my perspective. So it's like I'm not going to go really deep with someone that is challenging from the first step. Yeah. And I'd rather, and this is for boundaries, I'd rather say, and I've said this before, yeah, okay, if that works for you, then it's okay. You can keep that view. It's no problem. Yeah. Or if they're a bit more confrontational, I'll go, yeah, okay. Or they'll go, no, it's like this, is this. I'll go, is that so? No, I would say I don't see things like that, or I see it different, and that's it. I don't go any further. I don't go, okay, then. I don't submit. I just don't hit my head up against a brick wall, and I certainly don't bow to someone that's misconceived in my idea. And you might think, well, that's potentially arrogant. So who are you to say that they're misconceived? Yeah. If they are suffering, and people have a right to be angry, but I've always found that if someone's angry, it's misunderstanding. And so I'm not misunderstanding where I'm coming from, or it's because the only thing that will set you free is understanding, deep understanding. So you get a sense of their background, what they've gone through. You might say, yeah, I understand how that you could be angry with that, but this was the intent, and it wasn't a malice or malicious thing that was done. Yeah. And whether it's me or someone else, I always try and offer understanding to the other person that they're angry with. So you allow others to have their view. You don't have to challenge them. You don't have to submit at all. When I was in India and I had gurus, I didn't try and prove, like I was suffering. I had anger issues for sure and all sorts of issues. I didn't try and prove to them that my view was correct and they were wrong. But I just submitted. That's, I guess, the only time I tried to submit in a sense, because they were loving. I never felt threatened. And my gurus encouraged reflecting and discovering, self-discovery and unraveling. And to me, I like to think I'm a rational thinker. It just was common sense that if they're at peace and I don't see them in conflict and they seem harmonious, it just made sense. They know more than me. They have a deeper understanding than what I have. And I needed, within me, I was driven to discover what that was. And the only way you can get a sense of that is to go inward and discover your heart and discover how amazing and how beautiful it is, and therefore discover more within others.
Mm-hmm.
So to the same token, if someone's angry and frustrated and blaming all those externally and resenting others and controlling others, we should not submit to these people, because you got to find the balance. But when we submit, we're saying, yes, you are right. And that keeps the same pattern going over and over and over. And I spoke to a good friend of mine that's having sort of relationship issues, and my mate wears his heart on his sleeve, and he's a hopeless romantic in a sense, and he tends to find partners that he tries to fix them in a way. Like it's just he's drawn to people and he sees the good in them no matter what. And everyone has that potential. But I said to him, if you can see the good and they can't, and they don't access it,
mm-hmm.
then you're putting your face out there to be slapped.
Yeah.
And I'm not a relationship counselor either. So this is my experience. So that's all I have to that's all I have to go on. But
mm-hmm.
to me, it makes perfect sense. I said, with other friends, with your mates or your friends, your really good friends and your closest friends, you're never threatened by them. Like
right.
You and I, Mike, like we never hurt each other,
no.
ever. And we're supportive, we're nurturing, we're kind, always, 100% of the time. So the inner circle of your friends, the closest circle, you're never threatened by. You're just completely yourself, as far as you can be within yourself. You know what I mean? Like you're most yourself when you're by yourself, of course. But and if your friends though start hurting you all of a sudden, and I think the honeymoon phase in relationships is like this, where you're just like, wow, why are you all putting in? Because it's an idea, it's a bit of mystery. And mystery is magnetic. It's sort of, you get every area that you're not sure of, you tend to project your fantasy in a sense. Within a relationship or a friendship, as soon as the other person or your friends start hurting you and start getting controlling or abusive or start being triggered on a consistent level, they'll get further from the inner circle, and that's natural progression. But in your relationships, you still allow them access, and it's like if you're wearing your heart on your sleeve and you're sticking your neck out, and the relationship's all one-sided. I said to my mate, it's not about putting them on the extreme outer circle. It's on its merits every day. So when they're kind, allow them that soft side. But if someone's insensitive to your needs because they've got stuff up, basically, often when people are triggered, they can't empathize or see what's going on within or with those around them.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a pattern of this where you're hurt often, then I feel they should potentially have access to the inner circle, but it's not a given. Sorry, Linda's gone through a transformation. So with a different set of headphones, because he started crackling and we had to stop-start a number of times. So, yeah. So Linda may sound a bit different. Apologise for that, but she's still the same person.
Sorry.
All good. All good. So we'll carry on. Respect and the inner circle and access to that has to be earned. And I feel in a relationship, just because someone ventured there, and if they ventured there and they're insensitive and they don't really see you, because that's a place where you should be seen, the inner circle, the close circle to yourself. And like friends for years will have access to that place, and you may not see them for years, and they're straight away, they're back there. And it's a beautiful thing. And I feel people misunderstand the access and what it takes to get there in a way that they have a relationship, and that's a short track to the inner circle, because there's a sense of mysticism. There's things that draw them in, and you care about them, and there's attraction and all sorts of things. There's a different level. But just because I really feel within me, just because someone has access to that inner circle within yourself, where your walls come down and you're vulnerable, if they have their own issues and they in that space at times, they walk straight in there, they start dropping things and creating or wreaking havoc because of their own issues. Like I think you should put up like some boundaries so they don't have direct access. So when they're in a space where they can see you, they can walk straight through. But you need to protect yourself. It's like it's a place that has to be earned. And if you're not respected or disrespected, or if they keep coming into that place, that inner circle where you're vulnerable and becoming aggressive, then you're losing yourself as long as they have access to that place. Yep. And I said to my friend, I said, when she's in her heart and you feel comfortable, like allow her access. But don't, when she's taking you for granted or if not really responding or there's disconnect, don't give her direct access. So it's like she has access like a short track to that circle when she's sitting well in herself. But when she's not, you can nurture her without being super vulnerable if she's aggressive and lashing out, because that's projection anyway. Yeah. So I feel if you allow someone access to the inner circle in a sense that no matter how they are, and they can be harsh towards you and or aggressive or blame you, and they always have access to the inner circle, that will eat you alive. That will you'll feel drained. You won't be able to recover. That inner circle is the inner sanctum where you get to recover, in my opinion, from the battering that life sometimes offers, And as you develop within yourself and discover things and unravel things and understand things, that inner sanctum becomes more and more sacred. Yeah. So you learn to, as that becomes more sacred, you can distinguish more and more who has access to that place and who doesn't, and you draw other boundaries. So if someone has access to that vulnerable place within you, and if they're going through things, or if there is, if they're sensitive in that space, then it doesn't hurt to put up boundaries. And if you allow them access when they're like that constantly, you're saying it's okay to treat me however you want, even when I'm vulnerable. And it's like a child misbehaving, and you keep giving them sweets and chocolates, because that's where all the good stuff is, the inner circle. That's a deeper connection. If you create boundaries for people that, this is my experience, if you create boundaries for people that are clumsy or aggressive in that inner circle, then what you ultimately, encouraging them to mature. So you're saying, well, you can, you might be like, I love you, but you're teaching them slowly that they have access when they sit well in themselves, when they're considerate of you. And if they don't like who you are, then they shouldn't want to be in the inner circle anyway. So it's like with a child, where if they misbehave, there might be time out. There's certain ramifications. And then the whole point is to teach a child that when they behave certain ways, or certain mannerisms, certain experiences, certain attitudes will get you access to certain places, and other ones will not. And I feel, because I had a mate that said, I don't want to play games. I said, you're playing games now.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you're allowing them access, and then they have big expectations of what they should deliver or offer you in this space, and it's not realistic. And like this stuff all sounds personal, and it isn't. It just feels that way, because if people can't see you, it's because they're wrapped up in themselves. They're not wrapped up in you. They're wrapped up in their own trauma and their own issues, their own past, their own pain, frustration, resentment, all those things, which accumulates from most likely before they met you and a number of people. So it's boundaries are about allowing people access when they behave in certain ways. And there is nothing wrong with that. It's encouraged. I would encourage anyone, because then you're training them that, that there are boundaries, and that it's not a given that you have access when you're clumsy or you're aggressive or angry or you're hurtful. So so what does that offer the other person? Well, they start reflecting, considering, and subtly, even if they're not necessarily looking for spiritual growth, they will learn, if they're interested and truly care about you, that there's certain things that need to be offered or understood, and they've got to be considerate of you, because obviously if you care about them, you want to be with them, or even in friendship, there's certain parameters that need to be adhered to, certain boundaries, certain attitude, and certain amount of respect to get access. So that respect and kindness is the key to unraveling all doors. And if people keep getting access to the inner sanctum of yourself, of your heart, and keep getting aggressive often, then you've got to question, you've got to look at everything. And someone might be going through a rough patch, and you can still nurture someone. like without, you can still access to the inner sanctum. You can still hug and help them. But if someone's hurting and they're lashing out, they're angry, you can comfort them without being super vulnerable.
Yep.
You can be open, you can be soft, but it doesn't mean you allow them into the room of your heart that has all chandeliers and all glass things that they can smash because they can't really feel anything, you know? It's all analogies, of course. So you might have a room within yourself full of chandeliers, who knows? But it feels like it. It feels like it at times.
Twinkle, twinkle.
So, yeah. So that's where inner spark comes from, inner twinkle.
Yeah.
So boundaries is essential. And it's not a given, even if you've been in a relationship for years, and there's not a given that people have access to it at all times, especially if someone's projecting and resentful and that sort of thing. And I feel, walls naturally come up, but you've got to, if you have boundaries within yourself and you stand by them, you don't have to be so fearing. You don't have to have your backup, because it becomes clear and concise what people need to do to get access. And when you have boundaries, you're valuing yourself and the inner sanctum of your being. You're saying that's special, and I'm not going to just let anyone in there. And you might, say to your partner, you have access to me, the inner me, but sometimes if you're aggressive or hurtful, I can't, in a way, you're not going to allow access. You can support them without being open to, be poked in the eye. Like if I said to my mate, if they're your dance partner, your life partner's your dance partner, and they start dancing and treading on your toes every single dance, you get bruised toes, you put on some steel caps, you protect that part of your foot.
Yeah.
And then you may not dance as much, or you might try and find methods or ways or to work through whatever's changing the way they dance, whatever's impacting them. But the goal is just to slowly make it so you don't need steel caps. You take them off, but you have to have. There's nothing wrong with protecting yourself, and that's what boundaries is all about.
Yep.
And it's not about putting up walls like resentful walls. It's putting up walls and remaining open. And if you can put up walls and still learn to understand and sympathize and offer your heart to another person, even if it's suffering, then boundaries will assist you to be able to do that without losing yourself. I feel that's healthy. So, and if someone doesn't want to learn or grow or understand, and they're there for a while, and you look at their pattern throughout their life, and if it's the same, nothing's changing, then you really question how good a friend are they, and what are you offering. But I feel if you have boundaries in there, look for someone to feel sorry for them, and you put up boundaries, you're not feeling sorry, you're sympathizing, and if you don't feed them how they want to be fed. And most people that are, and this is having a view that not everyone's aggressive or angry, but it comes up for people. But if they're in the same pattern, have been throughout their entire life, and you're hoping they'll change, but there's no signs of change, then putting up boundaries will encourage them on some level to change or grow and reflect. And then it's their choice. Yeah. We cannot force change on anyone. So it's as simple as that. So the only way we can truly enforce change or encourage change, it's not enforcing, it's the wrong word. The only way we're going to encourage change is to live that change. And then if they can recognize that there's boundaries and that things are a bit different and that you're living a certain way, for someone that's ready, that's enticing, it'll arouse some curiosity and they'll respect you more for it. Yep. Just like with a child, if you let them run amok, they won't respect you. But if you offer boundaries and there's consequences, then they will love you more for it.
Yeah,
it's amazing how it works.
Yeah, so because self-respect creates respect.
Yeah, and that I really feel that everything has to be earned, and the biggest earner is attitude and heart and respect. It's not physical at all. That's the last thing I feel. You can offer things through heart by doing physical things, but the respect and connection is earned internally through the mind, emotions, heart, most of all. Yeah. So don't be afraid to put up boundaries. And it's important to note that when one tries to create boundaries and there's an unhealthy pattern, like everyone's involved in that pattern. So you're involved in that pattern. If you're in an unhealthy relationship, you're involved in that pattern. So as soon as you change, and start creating boundaries, there's going to be a resistance in the other to some degree because the dynamics change. And even what you'll find within yourself that you'll be wanting to go back to the old pattern, even though it's not serving you because it's what's familiar. So it's amazing how the psyche and the attitude will try and stick to what's familiar, even if it's not working.
Yeah.
And you might think it's hard. So part of any change is there's some sense of resistance within self. That's just sort of a natural in a way. So be aware that boundaries and change is not easy, but it's necessary for a deeper relationship within self and with others. Yeah. So anything to add to that? I think that's.
Yeah, no, that's well said.
Sorry, it's been a bit of a delay. It's been a busy time over Christmas and there's been a lot happening. So we're back on track. Hope you enjoyed the video and we look forward to the next one. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.